Thank you for listening to this podcast from TRE, Talk Radio Europe, your voice in Spain and around the world. For more information, please visit TRE.radio.
Ger Sweeney presents Live on Eire in association with EmeraldConnection.net.
Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another edition of Live on Eire. I know what I did wrong. That was the intro that I was using last week when I was sitting in for Alan. Here's the right one.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
There you go. See, it wasn't that hard. I was having a couple of issues before I went on air. Nothing major at all. Just simple little stuff. The connection between my studio here in Ireland and the studio in Spain was breaking down, but it seems to have remained stable. If it does go a little bit funny, will you send me a text? If you know my own number, do it in that, or if not, +34 645 99 67 95, please. And that is the telephone, or that is the WhatsApp number if you would like to make a comment on the programme. A comment I shall on Howard Brereton's Spain today. Thank you, Howard, for another fabulous programme. I loved that version of Cuando that you played a little earlier on. Only got a chance to tune in at about 20 to 7 or thereabouts because I was doing things here that needed to be done. And I know, and I couldn't even get the intro to the programme sorted out in all that time. Anyway, what have we got for you this evening on Live on Eire? We have Patricia Traynor will be continuing her series on the cities on the island of Ireland. She will be picking another one this evening. In fact, after tonight's one, there's only 3 more left in that particular series, and they've been riveting, absolutely brilliant. So another one of those this evening in the first hour of the programme. I'm going to be joined in the second hour of the programme by Karen McCaffrey and Jimmy Cosgrave. Now, Karen McCaffrey is representing Smithsborough Tidy Towns. Smithsborough is a very small village, a beautiful village by all accounts, on the border, very close to County Fermanagh. She's in County Monaghan. And they came up with a very novel idea. They have a lot of trees as you approach the village, and I think 12 of them were diseased. And so they had to be taken out. Or did they? Did they? We'll find out when we talk to Karen McCaffrey and Jimmy Cosgrave. What's Jimmy's role in all of this? Well, there was an alternative to taking the trees out. So there you have it. All right. And Jimmy Cosgrave was part of that solution. So we'll find out a little bit about it. And looking forward to going to County Monaghan a little later on to talk to Karen and to Jimmy. So there you have it. So that's what we have for you tonight on the programme. There'll be lots of music in there as well. Good Irish music, some new and some that you would be familiar with. And we will have lots of news from home as well. It was an amazing afternoon of hurling last Sunday as the Limerick senior hurlers triumphed over Kilkenny in the All-Ireland Senior Hurling Final played at Croke Park. It was absolutely brilliant. I must say, I kind of had repetitive strain injury nearly the onset of it after the weekend because I was trying to keep an eye on the golf in Royal Liverpool and Hoylake, the Open, and I was trying to keep an eye on the Formula 1 as well. So I was kind of hopping back and forth. So it was a relief at 5 o'clock when the hurling was over that I could just concentrate on the last part of the Open, which is exactly what I did. But there you have it. Anyway, congratulations to the Limerick hurlers. About 15,000 people had tickets to line the streets in Limerick last night, on Monday night, I beg your pardon, for the homecoming of the team. It was a wonderful event. So congratulations. Next weekend, of course, the attention turns to the senior footballers as Kerry and Dublin do battle in the All-Ireland Senior Football Final. Throw in there is at 3:30 Irish time, 4:30 Spanish time next Sunday if you are interested in that. Bad news, however, on the sporting front a little earlier on today from Australia, because the girls in green competing at the Women's World Cup for the first time ever have been knocked out of the competition after a 2-1 defeat by Canada this afternoon in Perth. And that comes on the back of a 1-0 defeat to the Matildas of Australia last Thursday. So commiserations to the ladies in green, the girls in green, the Irish soccer team. And congratulations on getting that far. And well done. I'm sure they're going to come home to heroes' welcome anyway. There's been so much excitement about it in Ireland. Now, construction. Oh, sorry, I did give you, didn't I? I did. I gave you the WhatsApp number, which is +34 645 99 67 95. And if you would like to send an email, you can do that as well. TRE.radio is, Ger at TRE.radio. All right. So GER at TRE.radio. Or you can use my own one as well. Ger, GER at TRE.radio. Studio, I should, sorry. Do you know what it is? It's one of those days today that I did a lot more than I anticipated doing, and did stuff that I didn't, kind of even envisage I would get done today, but it's done. So my head is not really completely focused yet, but I'll get there. I will, I promise you. And just so as you know, those of you sweltering in very high temperatures, there's a horrible, rainy, miserable day in Ireland today. Very low cloud. It's misting at the moment. It's a light mist, but it's a heavy light mist, if you know what I mean. And it was torrential rain a little earlier today as well. I was going to have a little barbecue, little family do on Saturday, but that's cancelled now because the forecast isn't great. So if you're sweltering, I know you'd like a little drop of this. And you know what? Having sweltered for a number of summers in Spain, I'm not at all put out the weather we're having at the minute. So we're getting on with it. So let's go back to the contact numbers. +34 645 99 67 95 is our WhatsApp. You can email studio@tre.radio or ger@tre.radio. Now, construction on a new solar farm at Timbahoe North in County Kildare is underway as part of a wider solar energy joint venture between Bord na Móna and ESB. The ESB would be the Electrical Supply Board, which was the main supplier of electricity in Ireland for generations. International energy provider and service provider Voltalia has been contracted to carry out the engineering, procurement and construction. That's the EPC part of the contract of the solar farm over the next 12 months. The two companies expect the solar farm will be fully operational by the end of next year, with an installed capacity of 108 megawatts of renewable energy to the national grid. That's lovely. This is enough energy to power around 25,000 homes, which will support the delivery of more green energy to communities and businesses across the country in line with Ireland's renewable energy targets for 2030, the companies said in a statement. Now, Bord na Móna and ESB have agreed to develop solar power across 4 Midlands locations in Kildare, Offaly and Roscommon. The joint venture aims to collectively deliver up to 500 megawatts of power from solar farms based on Bord na Móna lands. This development follows the successful outcome for Bord na Móna and ESB and the government's Renewable Energy Support Scheme auction last year, as well as early stage works which have taken place over the past 12 months. Now, Jim Dollard is the ESB Executive Director, Generation and Trading. He said that this project is part of ESB's wider investment in solar farms. ESB expects to invest about €200 million over the next 2 years in the first phase of our solar rollout as we move towards our ultimate goal of achieving net zero by 2040, he said. This project shows the importance that ESB is placing in solar and demonstrates our commitment to developing a growing portfolio of solar assets in Ireland, he said. So there you have it. It's interesting because one of the things that I noted as I drive through Spain is the number of solar farms that are there, the solar panels, and they stretch for what seems like acres and acres and acres. And I often wondered why we weren't doing that in Ireland. So it appears that we are, and we're starting that process, which is absolutely brilliant. So that's good news. Delighted. I like to bring you music, Irish music, on the programme. And sometimes I like to go off track and play people that I haven't played before when I can find the music and when I have the time to go digging and looking for stuff. Came across this a little earlier today from a lady by the name of Sarah Crean. I think she's Dublin based. A brand new single from her is called Wasted Youth. Do hope you enjoy it. Stay with me, please, if you can, until 9 o'clock this evening. Lots to tell you about, and you've got lots to hear as well.
My pain decided on a coin of two. I sympathise. The ignorance of youth is found. 4 months, 4 years for something blue. My pain decides a free-for-all recluse, and I criticise the ignorance of youth is trained. 4 months, 4 years for something blue. Ways for codes and a dying cry for peace. Yeah, you know you can't let go when a tyrant falls asleep. Sympathize, the weight gets older. Crucify the ones who love you through it. chip on your shoulder and you're 12 years old when you're crying in your dad's car, spinning as he drove you home. Protect the files with wasteful codes and a dying cry for peace. Yeah, you know you can't let go when a torrent falls asleep. Sympathize always gets older. Crucify the ones that love you. Through it beside it, know that you like it when you can't get enough of yourself. Sympathize always gets older. Crucify the ones that love you. Through it beside it, know that you like it when you can't get enough of yourself.
She's done and dusted. I was looking at something else timing-wise, but that's fine. I like it. I think it's nice. It comes from Sarah Crean. It's a song that's called Wasted Youth. I was kind of drifting away there listening to the song and just thinking about stuff. It happens, I suppose, doesn't it? Yeah. There was a story running for a number of months in Ireland about a man by the name of Bernard Phelan, who was in an Iranian jail. He was released a number of weeks ago, and I have a little bit of information about him. But first, let's do a very quick break, shall we?
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
Now, before I go to that story about Bernard Phelan, I can tell you that a story that has just broken in Ireland in the last half hour or thereabouts is that the Garda Representative Association is to ballot its members on whether or not they have confidence in the Garda Commissioner. That would be Drew Harris that they're talking about. The association represents almost 12,000 rank-and-file Gardaí. The decision to hold a vote of no confidence in Drew Harris was made at a meeting of the GRE's CEC meeting this afternoon. I have no further details on that. I don't know what may or may not be behind it, but it is something that I will keep an eye on, and if I have further information on that, I will bring it to you between now and 9 o'clock. As I said, the Irishman Bernard Phelan, who was released from an Iranian jail in May, has been making the headlines. He has said that he is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder. I don't doubt it, following his ordeal, during which he was told that he would die in prison. The 64-year-old, originally from Clonmel in County Tipperary and who also holds French citizenship, was detained in Iran in October last year on what was his fifth trip to the country. The Paris-based tourism consultant was arrested while travelling and was held in Mashhad in northeastern Iran. He had been charged with offences relating to sending information to a foreign state, which he denied. He was given a 6.5-year sentence with no amnesty for the charge brought against him, despite a judge telling him beforehand that he faced 3 years and could be given a pardon due to his ailing health. Speaking on RTE News, Mr. Phelan said that as a result of his ordeal, he now suffers from PTSD, saying that some everyday things can trigger bad memories and that French authorities have assigned him a psychiatrist. Mr. Phelan said he was detained one evening while travelling with his Iranian friend. His friend had wished to take photographs of mosques in Mashhad before they were approached by a number of men. His belongings were taken from him and he was brought in for questioning for a number of hours before he was then taken to an interrogation centre. While in his cell, he said that he could hear beatings taking place through the night. He said whilst in the interrogation centre, he slept on the floor with a blanket for around 3 weeks. He was asked strange questions during his interrogation, ranging from the Yellow Vests movement in France, whether he was married, his favourite books and films, and whether he would adopt children. He's 64. Mr. Phelan said that the saddest day during the early days of his detainment was on the 10th of October, the day that he was due to fly back to France. He said that the guards had told him that they had good news for him, that he was to be transferred to the French. That didn't happen. He said after his time in the interrogation centre, he spent 3 days handcuffed to a hospital bed where he had been brought due to ill health before being moved to a dedicated prison in Mashhad. where up to 30,000 people were held. He described the experience there as terrible as he shared a cell with 20 other people, adding that things got tense at times given the assorted nature or mixture of prisoners. It must have been horrendous. Excuse me. And he also spoke when he was being interviewed. I think it was a newspaper article that I spotted in relation to this, and he said that the guards were extremely cruel, and they'd come in and they'd tell people that they were being released, and they'd get them cleaned up, and they'd get them dressed, and they'd get them sorted, and they'd walk them as far as the gate and then say, no, it's not happening, and bring them back to the cell. I mean, oh, how sick is that? Now, significant opposition of remote working. We start that again and we'll try and do it properly, shall we? Significant adoption of remote working, coupled with the downturn in the tech sector, have created a drag on the office leasing sector in Dublin during the first half of this year. Just 65,853 square metres of office space was let between January and June of this year, down more than a quarter on the same period last year, and almost a third below the 15-year average. This is according to BNP Paribas Real Estate Ireland, their latest report on the office sector in the capital, which says that the drop is despite Ireland creating jobs at twice the average rate across the EU. The report shows that the tech firms accounted for just 12.6% of Dublin's office take-up in the second quarter of the year. That drop is significant because between 2017 and 2020, tech firms made up 53% of the office space leased in Dublin. However, this slump has been partially offset by strong demand from the traditional professional and financial services occupiers, including aircraft leasing companies. That's according to BNP. The situation has been exacerbated by Ireland being the biggest adopter of remote working in the EU, leading to less office demand. According to Eurostat, the proportion of Irish employees sometimes or usually working from home rose from 19.9% in 2019 to 36.2%. It's almost doubled. That was last year's figure, 36.2, marking the largest percentage point increase in any EU country. BNP forecasts that by the end of the year, office vacancy levels will hit 15% as the level of completions of new space grows. At the same time, rents for prime office space will continue to level off. So there we go. There's a lot being made, isn't there, about working from home, says the fellow who's broadcasting from his back garden on the west coast of Ireland on a Spanish radio station. But sure, a few of us do that. What you call it, Howard broadcasts from Nerja, and Stephen Ritson broadcasts from Cologne in Germany. And I think everybody else is kind of studio based, aren't they? I think they are. But there's a few of us, all right, yeah, that do it persistently. Yes, we're frequent flyers, as the man says. Yes, I have other bits and pieces of news to bring you, but I also have plenty more good music to bring you as well. I regret to say that I didn't have a chance to check out how exactly to pronounce this man's name. J-A-P-E. Is it Jape? Is it Jappy? Is it Jap? I don't know. It could be Jape. Could be. Anyway, current single from him called Heal These Wounds.
Every time you look around, take a little time to see. Every time you close your eyes, my love, know that you are close to me. 'Cause out of the dark, there will come light. Isn't that right? Isn't that right?
It is spelled J-A-P-E. It's the solo project of Richie Egan. Aye, and that's who you've been listening to. Nice though, isn't it? Yeah, that's a song that's called Heal These Wounds. And it's brand new from him. Well, Richie, Jeppe, whatever it is, I don't know for sure. What will I do? Yes, I'll go for a quick commercial break. Come back to me after that. I have more news for you. And then I will introduce Patricia. She's got a story for us about one of the island's great cities. And I suppose this might help cheer them up a little bit, because the people from this particular city and associated county, they're not in great form this week. You'll understand why shortly.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
And you welcome back to the programme. Nice to have your company this evening. I hope that you can stay with me until 9 o'clock. And if you would like to send a comment or a message to the programme, you're welcome to do that. Our WhatsApp machine is all paid up and cranked up and ready. And you can send it to +34 645 99 67 95, or you can send an email to studio@tre.radio. You can always use my own email as well, which is ger@tre.radio. Now, production on two major film and television projects in Northern Ireland has been stalled due to the ongoing writers and actors strikes in Hollywood. Late last week, Northern Ireland Screen confirmed that a live action adaptation of popular children's animated film How to Train Your Dragon has been delayed. It was due to start filming at the Titanic Studios in Belfast. Hollywood is experiencing two simultaneous strikes by both actors and screenwriters, as you probably know by now, over issues including pay, conditions, and, I think more importantly, the potential use of artificial intelligence. Northern Ireland Screen CEO Richard Williams said that he was saddened by the delay in the production, which cannot proceed until the Screen Actors Guild strike is resolved. He said that he hopes for a swift and equitable resolution to the dispute for all parties, allowing USA-originated projects to get back into production in Ireland. It was previously confirmed that TV series Blade Runner 2099 would also be delayed because of the writers' strike. Northern Ireland Screen, which was allocated millions of pounds in funding for both projects, said that it was extremely disappointed by the news and that preparations had been ongoing in Belfast for many months for the Blade Runner project. It's thought that the latest delay to How to Train Your Dragon will affect hundreds of Northern Ireland-based workers. Negotiations officer with broadcast union Bectu, Angela Moffat, said that this has the potential to have a devastating impact on its members and the broader Northern Ireland community. Ms. Moffat said that 75% of the crew due to work on the movie were based in Northern Ireland, and that potentially hundreds were affected when you consider, I suppose, the supplies and the hairdressers and the makeups and the catering and all sorts of things that would go on in relation to events like that and things like that. You can see how it would have a devastating effect effect. So fingers crossed for everybody that it will be resolved soon. Now, Patricia Trader joins me occasionally on the programme, and she tells us stories, and she tells us wonderful stories. And she's been doing that for a number of years now, and we have well over 100 stories gathered and told to you. In fact, we've more than that gathered, because you haven't heard some of the ones that we have in the can. But for the last wee while, she's been telling us stories about cities on the island of Ireland. And today, she's going to continue that series. Patricia.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney. Clear.
Tell you what, we'll hold that commercial break, all right? Let's go to Patricia. Sorry, it was the big green button I pressed instead of this one down here. Patricia.
Well, hello, Ger. Today we're going to talk about Kilkenny. Now, Kilkenny is situated on the River Nore in Leinster. Its name in Irish is Kilcanny, which means the Church of Cannith or Canis. There's evidence of a monastic site in the 6th century, and we also know that St. Canis was a good friend of St. Columkill, and that he established a monastery in Achabó. But it was really in the 8th century when it became an important monastic centre, which became the seat of the Bishop of Ossory. The bishop's seat was transferred from Achabó to Kilkenny in 1120. A small church was built in honour of St. Canis. The Annals of the Four Masters mention Kilkenny in 1085. The kings of Ossory had their residence there as it formed part of Leinster. An important date in Irish history, and particularly in Leinster's history, is 1169, when Richard de Clare, Earl of Pembroke, also known as Strongbow, invaded Leinster on the request of Dermot MacMurrough, who was the King of Leinster at the time. Leinster had been invaded by Tiernan O'Rourke from Breffni, and so MacMurrough fled to Wales to ask for help from Henry II of England. Henry agreed to send Strongbow and an army of Anglo-Norman knights. Strongbow was called Strongbow because of his great skill in archery. The Anglo-Normans had superior weapons to the Irish, and so easily defeated the invaders. MacMurrough fulfilled his promise of giving Strongbow the hand of his beautiful daughter Aoife in marriage. He had also promised him that he would be his successor as King of Leinster. Strongbow married Aoife, and when MacMurrough died 2 years later in 1171, he became King of Leinster. Strongbow built a wooden fortress near what is now Kilkenny Castle. Some years later, Strongbow's daughter married William Marshall, and he became Lord of Leinster in 1192, and he rebuilt Strongbow's fortress in 1195. In 1202, the Bishop of Ossory began work on St. Canis's Cathedral. The first stone castle was built by William Marshall. It was completed in 1213, and the town was extended northwards. There were 2 townships, Irish Town and High Town. Irish Town, which had its charter from the Bishop of Ossory, was the area of St. Canis's Cathedral, which was owned by the Bishop of Ossory. The Anglo-Norman borough inside the wall became known as High Town. It was established by William Marshall, the first Earl of Pembroke, and he made sure that it was well protected by building a series of walls to keep the burghers safe. Marshall died in 1219. His son, who was also called William, granted a new priory to the Dominican order in 1225. It was called Black Abbey, and it is one of the first houses of the Dominican order in Ireland. Kilkenny also has a grim past for being associated with the burning at the stake of a woman in a case of witchcraft. It happened in 1324, when Alice Keitler, a Hiberno-Norman noblewoman, was accused of witchcraft. She had been married 4 times, but all 4 husbands had died. She was accused of killing them in collusion with her handmaid Petronella. Alice fled to England, but Petronella was forced to confess and was then burnt at the stake. That made her the first woman in Ireland or in Great Britain to be burnt at the stake for witchcraft. The plague, called the Black Death, arrived in Ireland in 1348. It took its toll on the English inhabitants, who saw the numbers of people living in the Pale significantly reduced. The Irish language and customs dominated at the time and caused some anxiety in England. So the Statutes of Kilkenny were passed, making it illegal for the descendants of Anglo-Normans in Ireland to speak Irish, to marry Irish people, to adopt Irish children, to adopt Irish culture or customs or ways of dress. Fact is, it was too late. The Anglo-Normans at that time were said to be more Irish than the Irish themselves. But the fact is that when the Statutes of Kilkenny were introduced in 1366, they had to be translated into Irish, as the Anglo-Irish didn't understand them, and so they ignored them. Dublin was peopled with settlers from England and Wales, and they lived in an enclosed fortified area around Dublin called the Pale, which was relatively small. The Pale was effectively under the English crown during the 14th and 15th centuries. Those who lived outside the Pale were thought to be unruly and dangerous, and those who lived within the Pale felt threatened. However, when Henry VIII declared himself King of Ireland, the Pale was no longer needed. Kilkenny was awarded city status in 1609 by King James I of England. Following the rebellion of 1641, the Irish Catholic Confederation, also known as the Confederation of Kilkenny, was based in Kilkenny and gave a period of peace and prosperity until 1649, when Oliver Cromwell mounted a military campaign against Ireland. He captured Kilkenny and wrought devastation on the cathedral. It remained abandoned and roofless for 12 years. St. Canice's Cathedral today belongs to the Church of Ireland, and the bishop is the Bishop of Cashel and Ossory. There's also a Catholic cathedral called St. Mary's Cathedral, and the bishop there is the Bishop of Ossory. Kilkenny Castle was closed in 1935, and the Ormond family left Ireland. But 30 years later, in 1967, the Marquis of Ormond, of the Butler family, presented Kilkenny Castle to the people of Kilkenny for the token sum of £50. Margaret Tynan became the first woman to be elected as Mayor of Kilkenny. A postage stamp with a picture of Kilkenny Castle on it was issued on the 16th of June 2009, marking the 400th anniversary of Kilkenny being upgraded from town to city by James I in 1609. The city is often referred to as the Marble City because of its black marble quarries, and the people from Kilkenny are often referred to as cats. The story being that there were two cats in the Dunmore Caves in Kilkenny who fought each other so ferociously that only their tails remained at the end of the battle. A strange story, but the people of Kilkenny don't seem to mind being called cats. In fact, every year in June, there is a popular festival called Cat Laughs Comedy Festival, which attracts great crowds. Another great event is the annual Kilkenny Arts Week Festival, which takes place every year during the last 2 weeks of August. Now, some interesting facts about Kilkenny. The architect who designed the White House in the United States was Irish. He was James Hoban, who was born and grew up on the Earl of Desert's estate near Callan, County Kilkenny. And what about Walt Disney's great-grandfather, Arundel Elias Disney? He was from Gowran, County Kilkenny, in the 19th century. And what about George Clooney? His great-great-grandfather, Nicholas Clooney, was baptised in Wingap Church, Kilkenny, in July 1829. The author of Gulliver's Travels, Jonathan Swift, attended Kilkenny College towards the end of the 17th century. And one of his fellow students was George Berkeley, the Irish philosopher who was born in Dishart near Thomastown, County Kilkenny. The prestigious university Berkeley College in California is named after him. So, Kilkenny has a lot to be proud of.
Thank you to Patricia for that. I don't normally follow Patricia by saying thank you. I normally play a piece of music, but I'll say thank you first and then tell you why I'm doing it as I'm doing it. Thanks a million, Patricia. Much appreciated as always. If you would like to hear any of the over 100 stories that Patricia has done for us on Live on Eire over the last 3.5 years or thereabouts, we've put them on a podcast series and you can find them. You can Google Patricia's name, Patricia Traynor, Trainor, or you can look for Stories of Ireland and the Irish wherever you happen to get your podcasts. All right. Now, the reason that I am coming back after Patricia instead of the music is to say that I've just received notification and on a number of different platforms, but I'm going to go to the Irish Times on this one, that Sinead O'Connor has died. The acclaimed Dublin singer. She was 56 years old. The Dublin performer found worldwide fame with hits like Nothing Compares to You in 1990, covering that beautiful Prince track. As I said, she was 56. This is what I'm reading from the Irish Times app this evening. The acclaimed Dublin performer released 10 studio albums, while her song Nothing Compares to You was named the #1 world single in 1990 by Billboard Music Awards. She was presented with the inaugural awards for Classic Irish Album at the RTE Choice Music Awards earlier this year. The singer received a standing ovation as she dedicated the award for I Do Not Want What I Haven't Got to each and every member of Ireland's refugee community. You're very welcome to Ireland. I love you very much and I wish you happiness, she said. Miss O'Connor is survived by her 3 children. Her son Shane died last year at the age of 17. So there's more to follow on that, and you will hear a lot more about that as well. It's sad news, the passing of Sinead O'Connor at the age of 56. Or yesterday, go raibh a Hanam Dílis.
It's been 7 hours and 50 days since you took your love away. I go out every night and sleep all day since you took your love away. Since you've been gone, I can do whatever I want. I can see whomever I choose. I can eat my dinner in a fancy restaurant, but nothing, I said nothing can take away these blues. 'Cause
There we go. That is Sinead O'Connor. Nothing compares to you, the old Prince track that she had wonderful success with back in 1990. And as I mentioned just before I played it, the Irish Times breaking the story that Sinead O'Connor has died at the age of 56. Interestingly, I don't see it appearing on the RTE website as yet. And there's a couple more that I would be very much more comfortable if they were to have that breaking news, but they don't. But anyway, that's the information that I have from the Irish Times at the moment. And one or two lesser known platforms as well, which may have picked it up as well from the Irish Times. So there you go. That's the news. Giles Brown is tuned in this evening. He's stunned by that news, as indeed many other people are as well. So yeah, I think before we go, we'll take another track from Sinead O'Connor. Absolutely, just to pay tribute to her. Let's do a very quick break. I made a hames of introducing Patricia because I fired the jingle too early. But sure, let's see if we can get it right just about now.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
You're welcome back to the programme. Now, Ireland will not meet its carbon budget targets for 2021 to 2025 or for 2026 to 2030 unless urgent action is taken. That is the warning from the Climate Change Advisory Council, which published its annual review for 2023 yesterday. It warns that unless emissions begin to fall much more rapidly, the target set in April of last year will be missed. The council said that the pace of implementation of agreed policy by the government was not acceptable given the existential threat and impact of climate change on society. It noted that spring and summer this year had seen a concerning series of unprecedented climate events, including the warmest June ever recorded in the country and record average sea surface temperatures in the same month. Should temperatures continue to rise, it warned that Ireland will witness more extreme weather events such as heat waves, droughts, storms and flooding. The council said that the government must address areas of uncertainty in how Ireland will reduce its emissions, including by how much each sector must reduce their emissions. For example, it said that the sectoral emissions ceiling for the land use change and forestry sector will or still had not been set. Chair of the Climate Change Advisory Council, Marie Donnelly, warned that clarity may arrive too late to provide the necessary signals to all sectors of their obligations over the period of 2030 and beyond. The council warned that rapid and far-reaching transitions were needed across all sectors to achieve deep and conscientious emission reductions. To that end, it made a series of overall and sector-specific recommendations. In the energy sector, it said that it was critical to stop using coal for electricity generation as soon as possible. It also called on the government to conclude its onshore wind energy plans for more help for local authorities to deliver onshore and offshore renewable energy applications, for the rollout of electricity storage to be incentivised, and for laws to support consumers to access the data from their smart meters so that they can control their energy use. Recommendations for the transport sector included redesigning motor tax to promote energy efficient vehicles, for more investment in public transport, and for a number of incentives to encourage more people to use it, including parking levies at workplaces and for park and ride schemes along major roads. For the building sector, the council wants to see building regulations updated to increase the use of timber and lower carbon cement and concrete. When it comes to meeting Ireland's food waste and food packaging waste targets, the council said that both public education campaigns and economic incentives were needed. The council wants to see more urgency and ambition in developing district heating schemes with large energy users like data centres to supply their excess to such schemes. The council also called for a new target of all social housing to be B2 energy rated or connected to a district heating network by 2030. For home retrofitting to be scaled up with priority given to homes that use coal or peat to generate heat, and for banks to be encouraged to offer green mortgages that would support retrofitting schemes. For farmers, it said the government should actively support income diversification opportunities, should ensure sufficient supplies of greener forms of fertilizer, and should consider the rollout of feed additives for dairy farms that reduce methane from cattle. It also said a streamlined process for applications for the new forestry scheme was essential. So there you go. There's a lot happening, isn't there? I have just enough time to get this in for you. So let's do that. I'm seeing that RTE News is now confirming the news that Sinead O'Connor has died at the age of 56. Here's Mike Hanrahan and a song called Shine, which might be appropriate for Sinead O'Connor. And as somebody just said, hopefully she'll find the peace that she needed.
When the clouds all gather round and darkness calls, I look around for anything at all, like a shadow I can cling on to, reaching out and holding on. It's everything that you do. Then I hear and I touch the voice where you belong to. Shine, keep on shining through. That's what you do to get me through. Shine, you melt away my blues. That's what you do to get me through. The shutters off one by one. I feel the breeze, I feel the leaving, and away we go to wander. Shine, keep on shining through. That's what you do to get me through. Shine, you melt away my blue. That's what you do to get me through. Down all the years, all the tears, all the laughter, dreams you weave and the ones we're chasing after. You're all I need. You make it happen. You make believe. Nothing really matters when you shine. You keep on shining through. That's what you do to get me through. You shine, you melt away my blues. That's what you do to get me through.
That is brand new music from Mike Hanrahan. Thanks to Mike for sending it on. PJ Curtis, thank you for sending that on to me a little earlier on today as well. Fair play.
Gather round.
It's called Shine. It's from the album, which is called Songs from the Box Room, which will be out in October. Mike Hanrahan, Shine. Delighted to be able to play that as well. News on the way.
Talk Radio Europe.
Your voice in Spain.
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
No, I didn't realise I hadn't put a little red mark at the end of the thingamajiggy that I should have put the red mark on. But anyway, there you go. Now, welcome back. Welcome to the second part of the programme. In this part of the programme, I'm going to be talking to Karen McCaffrey from the Smithsborough Tidy Towns Committee. And Smithsborough is in County Monaghan, just on the border. But I'm also going to be joined by Jimmy Cosgrave on that conversation. And it's all about trees. Yes, trees, alrighty. And trees that got diseased and what they did with them. What would you imagine they do with them? Well, we'll find out a little bit more a little later on when we chat to them in this hour of the programme. Looking forward to that conversation. Now, the people of Limerick could be voting for their first directly elected mayor by next June. It follows the decision of Cabinet to approve the legislative bill, which will go before the Dáil in the coming months, over 4 years after the Shannonsiders voted to have such a new role created for their city and county. The people of Limerick voted in May of 2019 to directly elect their own mayor after a plebiscite was conducted in Limerick as well as in Waterford and Cork. Now, the proposal was rejected in the 2 other cities. It's expected that the Limerick mayoral election will take place next June, on the same day as the local and European elections, which will be held on a date to be confirmed between the 6th and 9th of June. At Cabinet yesterday, the government signed off on the publication of the bill. The new arrangements will be made up of a 3-tier structure of the elected council, the directly elected mayor, and the chief executive, who will become the director general of the council. The mayor will have a wide range of functions, including the strategic and economic development of Limerick, housing, road transport and safety, and environmental services. He or she will be responsible for proposing the annual budget to the council, but the Director General will retain responsibility for managing the council's day-to-day operations. The Local Government Mayor of Limerick Bill 2023 will be published in the coming days, we are told. Now, they thought it had gone away, but I was chatting to somebody recently who is connected with UHL, University Hospital Limerick, and it was said to me that to be careful because COVID was on the rise once again. And I see that restricted visits and obligatory mask wearing for visitors have been introduced in the University Hospital Kerry to tackle a spike in COVID-19. Now, last week, 61 cases of the virus were reported in the county. That's up from 30 the previous week, with a noted rise amongst older adults. The region's acute hospital, which is located in Tralee, has seen a significantly increased number of COVID-19 admissions to the hospital, along with a high level of emergency presentations. However, there have been no increase in admissions to intensive care units, which is great, or deaths, which is even better, among patients with the virus. Operations Manager Damien Moyles acknowledged that the restrictions will make it difficult for some families, but he said that the priority is to continue to keep our loved ones safe. The HSE continues to advise people with symptoms of COVID-19, such as fever, cough or fatigue, to stay at home until 48 hours after those symptoms are mostly or fully gone. And on a much happier note, bookings for last-minute holidays in Ireland have jumped due to soaring temperatures in Greece, Italy and Spain, and wildfires in popular destinations such as Rhodes. New figures from AI-powered hotel technology provider Allura.ai show that the last-minute staycation bookings at 4- and 5-star hotels, and resorts across the country have jumped by 14% in the last week alone. Apparently, some holidaymakers have had their holidays cancelled at the last minute by their tour operators, and some are cancelling themselves as they think it's too risky to go abroad. And that's according to Michael de Jong, Chief Commercial Officer at Allura.ai. The data shows that short lead stays now account for 35% of total bookings this summer. Post-COVID, there has been a significant increase in booking lead times, with the average time between when the guest books and arrives at the hotel rising from 57 days to 67 days, said Mr. de Jong. But last-minute bookings, where the guests will arrive in less than a week after booking, are now surging, he added. Mr. de Jong said the surge in last-minute bookings in Ireland is putting pressure on rooms, staff, and in some cases, on prices. If they're booking last minute at 4- and 5-star hotels and facilities, lads, it's costing them an arm and a leg. There is absolutely no question about that. I was talking with some people yesterday evening, and I don't know how the subject came down about breakfast and going out to have your breakfast, which is something that a lot of people would do in Spain, and something that it's quite prevalent in Ireland as well. But apparently the new thing now is when you go to town and you have your breakfast, here in Ireland anyway, or in Clare, not sure about Limerick. But apparently you can have your rashers and your sausages and your puddings and your toast and your this and your that. And the price is whatever it is. But if you want tea or coffee, it's extra. They're having a laugh. They're absolutely having a laugh. That's the new thing, apparently. A number of places around Ennis have been doing, and apparently it's kind of common in the UK for the last number of years, somebody was saying at the same time last night. So anyway, there you go. I just thought I'd mention that to you. Sad news broke just under an hour ago. The death of Sinead O'Connor at the age of 56. I said we'd take another track from her. Let's do that. Here's a track that's called Mandinka.
I'm dancing with 7 days, wanting to pick up my star. See how the black moon fades, soon I can give you my heart. See how the glass is raised. I have refused to take part. I told them bring something new. Please let me pull something good. I don't know no shame. I feel no pain. I can't. I don't know.
There we go. That is Sinead O'Connor. In fact, Sinead O'Connor was the very first artist to be played on this programme, would you believe it? I come back to 2018. The late Sinead O'Connor now, unfortunately. The announcement of her death came just under an hour ago. She was 56 years of age. Yeshte Goreva Honam Dilish, we say again. I'm just trying to look here now. I can't access it immediately, but I'm looking at the guests that we had on the first programme back in April of 2018, and I know that the first song that we played was from Sinead O'Connor, but I can't remember which one it was. I'll try and find out. I can go back and listen to it, but I can't do that while I'm on air. But I was just checking my diaries there. Anyway, that was Sinead. What have I got to tell you? US citizens travelling to Ireland are being urged to exercise good personal security following a number of recent reported incidents, including a serious assault on a US tourist in Dublin last week. The idea behind this programme is to promote Ireland, promote, the things that we do and how well we do things, promote music. It's to talk about things that are happening and to interview people. So hate is a bad word. I dislike having to give a negative story, but it's kind of important when you have an embassy issuing a warning, and therefore I thought it's appropriate to mention it today. Anyway, Stephen Termini, who is from Washington, D.C., was attacked on Dublin's Store Street on Wednesday. The 57-year-old is being treated at Beaumont Hospital for serious injuries, and what makes it even worse, if there is anything worse than that, is that a 14-year-old was arrested, and I think has been charged, I'm not sure, but a 14-year-old arrested for that particular assault, which apparently was extremely vicious. And the gentleman, Stephen Termini, is going to have life-changing injuries from that, or has from that. Anyway, in a travel advisory issued yesterday, the US Embassy in Dublin refers to a number of recent incidents reported in the Irish media and states that travellers should safeguard valuables such as credit cards and passports and refrain from carrying large amounts of cash. Now, I suppose that could be said anywhere. I was talking to, by text, I was talking to Ben. You've met one of my sons, who's in Spain at the moment. And he's heading off to enjoy a festival this evening. And I just said for himself and his partner, Emma, to look after their wallets and their purses and their phones, because pickpockets will be in the area and other things. So it happens everywhere. It's not just in Dublin or in Limerick or in Cork or any other places. It happens all over the place. But the US Embassy in Dublin encourages all citizens to be aware of their surroundings, especially when travelling in unfamiliar places, crowded locations, empty streets, or at night. Yesterday, the Taoiseach said that there needs to be a more visible presence of Gardaí on the streets, saying that our cities kind of deteriorated during the pandemic period and have never really come back to level of safety that they were at. That's kind of rubbish, if the Taoiseach doesn't mind me saying. It has nothing to do with what happened during the pandemic. This is a serious problem and has been, and not just Dublin, but other cities as well. And he's codding himself and trying to cod the rest of us with a statement like that. The Taoiseach said that he will meet Garda Commissioner Drew Harris to focus, to discuss the issue. The advice from the US Embassy also urges US citizens to be aware of their environment and avoid walking alone if possible, especially during hours of darkness. The US State Department Travel Advisory website, which carries the latest alert from the embassy, rates Ireland at level 1, which means exercise normal precautions. Well, that, I suppose, is something. Now, having said that, the Minister for Justice has moved today to assure prospective visitors to Ireland that the country is a safe place to visit. Helen McEntee was responding to updated travel advisories from the US Embassy in Dublin. We know all about that. So what did she say? Ms. McEntee said that the embassy had updated its advice following a number of incidents recently, including an assault on an American tourist in Dublin city centre last week. She also said that it's still deemed at level 1 in terms of safety notifications from the US Embassy, in common with other European Union member states. But she said that it was not to diminish the concerns that people had about the effect of recent assaults, which she said were not acceptable. She was speaking in Castlebar in County Mayo. She said there were very clear issues that needed to deal with, and one of the best ways to respond is to have more Gardaí on the beat on the ground. She said that she was assured that there would be an additional 48 Gardaí on patrol in the Dublin metropolitan region in the coming week, and new members of the force are attested. All right, okay. The difficulty with that is that it's so expensive to live in Dublin right now, and the cost of living is hugely expensive, as we all know, right across Europe. But the new lads and girls coming out of Templemore, the Garda Recruiting College, they can't afford. They're not on the pay that will let them live in Dublin. You can't even rent a one-bedroom bedsit. And many of them are going through the college. They're being sent to Dublin. They can't afford to live there, and they're leaving the force. That's the reality of what's happening at the minute in places. So there doesn't seem to be a very quick fix in anything in relation to all of that. So there we go. No. God, he's in great form this evening, lads, isn't he? He is. Will I give you more stories or will we go? No, I tell you what we'll do. We have a very quick break to take and the remainder of that commercial break. So it's not very long at all. And then we're going to be joined by our guests on the programme. So please don't go anywhere. We're going north. Yes, we're going to County Monaghan just after this. So please stay where you are, won't you?
Live on Eire, presented by Ger Sweeney.
Normally when trees are diseased, they're just taken down, that's it, and they're taken out of the eye line. But an eye-catching roadside exhibition has replaced a row of diseased trees in a County Monaghan village. Now, 12 popular trees in Smithsborough had to be removed when they were found to be diseased, but instead of cutting them down entirely, the village's Tidy Towns group decided to leave 6 feet stumps behind. And then they got very creative with the whole thing. Karen McCaffrey from Smithsborough in County Monaghan from the Tidy Towns committee there joins me this evening. Karen, it's lovely to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for talking to us from beautiful Smithsborough in County Monaghan. And can I say to you, it's the first time since 2018, since this programme started, that we've had anything, I think, from County Monaghan.
Oh, well, that's wonderful. Thanks very much for inviting us on, Ger.
Not at all. When I saw this, I thought to myself, that's a fabulous story. And it's something that I know communities, and I've seen it myself, when trees are diseased, they're just taken down. But who had the bright idea to turn them into something artistic?
Well, I suppose it was the committee as a whole. Within Smithborough Tidy Towns Committee, there's only 4 of us, myself and 3 other ladies. I must give them a wee mention: Olivia McCaffrey, Geraldine Trainer and Grania Brady. And because the trees are so prominent on the approach road into the village, there was going to be a huge void by removing the 12 trees. So we were sort of thinking, what will we do? Will we plant other trees, or, take them out completely, plant other trees, or try and do something creative? But the trees would have been a very long time catching up if we had planted new trees with the existing popular trees, because there was about 25 of them in total, and there was only these specific 12 that were diseased, because the other ones were a different type of species, so they were okay. So we wanted to fill that void by doing something a little bit different and creative, and something that would stand out. So we thought about the tree carvings would be nice.
Lovely. Before we get into all of that, tell me a little bit about the village and about life in the village. How many people are there? What do you do for livings? What activities are you involved in apart from the Tidy Towns, or including the Tidy Towns? So tell us about Smithsborough.
Well, Smithborough is a small village in County Monaghan, just on the main N54 road between Monaghan and Clones. It's a very busy road that goes through the village. There's about 500 people lives in the village, and I myself, I work in marketing, and the other girls in the committee, Grania runs the local pub, the Skull Inn, right, which is a great place to socialise at the weekend. And Olivia's an SNA, and Geraldine's retired. So there's a great mix of people, have moved to the village. There's 4 prominent housing estates in the village, and a lot of people would sort of live out here and maybe work in Monaghan and that. We have the main factory here, Grove Farms, which is a big employer in the area. But the village, we try to do our best to sort of make it a nice place to live and work, and, a nice place for our kids to grow up, and also for people who are older to have an appealing place to live. So we try and do our best to keep the village tidy and looking its best and that. And we have 2 CE scheme workers, Kieran and Sean, who do Trojan work every week they help us keep the village looking as good as it is. So yeah, that's pretty much Smithborough.
And will you, just because I haven't done anything on the Tidy Towns, and I live in Ennis when I'm in Ireland, which I am at the moment, looking out at wonderful drizzle at the moment, while people across Europe, while people across Europe are sweltering. But
I know, we love a little bit.
I don't know about that. But anyway, listen, I'm thrilled to be where I am at the minute.
Yeah, I bet.
We're very big here in Ennis on the Tidy Towns, and we've been the winner of the towns, over the years. We've won a lot. So there is, and the town looks beautiful at this time of the year particularly. And it's a lot to do with the collaboration between the Tidy Towns Committee and the local authority, Clare County Council, which are very good, and it's a very healthy collaboration. Tell us a little bit about the Tidy Towns competition and how important the Tidy Towns committees are in towns and villages and cities across the country.
Yeah, well, we first entered the Tidy Towns in 2019, so this will be our 4th year entering it, and we're very grateful we get a grant funding at the beginning of the year for the village to help you upkeep at the village throughout the year, and we're very grateful for that grant every year. And it's become much more though than just keeping the village tidy. You have all your different goals now, and it's becoming more about sustainability and biodiversity and that. And it is challenging. Like, the application form in itself is quite a challenge to complete. Sure, you know that from Ennis and that. There's a lot to it, and we're all voluntary, and we're all just trying our best to do what we can. But we're a member of the Monaghan Public Participation Network, and they're an excellent support to have. You know, if you sign up to all groups are signed up with them, and you get regular email ensigns and things like that, keeping you up to date with what grants are out there, workshops, training courses and stuff. As is Ballybay Clonus Municipal District. They're part of Monaghan County Council. They're our local branch in Clonus, and they're a great support, and they actually part funded the removal of the trees first. They assisted us in getting that, because that was a mammoth work task, because the trees were about 70 foot high, so getting them cut down to the 60 foot wasn't an easy task. So we were delighted to have them on board to help us. So, and we were actually delighted to win in 2021 the Endeavour Award. It was only our 2nd year entering the Tidy Towns, but we were the most improved village or town in County Monaghan. So it was lovely to get that, and the wee additional funding as well. We got €500, and for a small Tidy Towns group like ourselves, that's a lot of money. So it is. So yeah, no, it is. It's everybody's sort of starting to chip in as well. It's great to see more little groups and the housing estates coming out and weeding and planting, and we try and get the youth involved with the local Froga Club. They were great. They were actually out oiling the trees first when they were finished, so hopefully they keep up that. But no, it is. It's a nice, like, you know, our motto is love where you live, so that's what we're trying to achieve, and everybody in the village to love where they live. You know, and it's wonderful to have you know, such a buzz in the village at the minute because of the RTE doing the story on us and that, and it's created a lovely feeling, and everybody's got a smile.
That's great. And in fairness, that is exactly where I picked up the story, was on the RTE website, which was great. So from RTE to TRE, and there you have it, right? Yeah. Let's take a look at the actual project itself. And once the decision was made to only cut the trees down to a certain height, and then to do something artistic with them, what was your next step after that?
Our initial thoughts was, whenever you know, we cut the tree trunks, we were going to tell the story of the history of the village through the tree trunks. But whenever we sort of met with Sean and Jimmy, and Joanne Behan is a local artist here who helped out in the project as well, it became obvious that it was a little bit tricky to tell the creamery, which is very rich in history here in the village, the canal and the railway line through the tree trunks, because from the sketches that were done at the time, it was difficult to create an impact. So Joanne, and with Jimmy and Sean as well, from doing the tree carvings, knew that animals worked really well and stood out and were quite distinctive. So we kept a little bit of the history of the village in it, with the milk pouring from the bucket and the wind spurts from the night of the big wind in 1839. And we'd done a male and a female to keep things even. Right, okay. Slipper was very badly affected back then, because the local historian Anne Corley done some work with us on that, and it was badly hit that night. So, and the wind spurts work really well, as Sean and Jimmy knew from doing previous projects. So, so basically, the hunt was on to look, and we decided what we wanted. We were really fortunate to find Sean and Jimmy, because it's very hard to find people who do the tree carvings. And they were right under our nose the whole time, just over the road in County Fermanagh.
There you go.
So it was great, because growing, you knew Sean and Jimmy, and they got talking and that, and they just do it in their spare time as a hobby and in the main shed and that. So it was brilliant. And once we had them hooked in. They had them done and dusted within nearly 2 weeks.
Oh,
So it was
fantastic.
fabulous.
All right. You mentioned Sean and Jimmy. We have Jimmy Cosgrave joining us as well. The wonders of technology is great. Jimmy Cosgrave is in County Fermanagh. Jimmy, you're very welcome to the programme and thank you for joining us. How are you?
Thank you. I'm very good. Thanks, Ger.
Not at all. Delighted to have you on board. And interesting, we were talking before we went on air and you were telling me that you live over the border in County Fermanagh, but you're actually in the same parish as Smithsborough. And that's, I suppose that's a unique thing along the border. There's a couple of areas like that.
Yeah, when partition happened, they didn't take into account of the local parishes. So
I don't think they were kind of foremost on their mind at that particular time.
No.
Anyway, Jimmy, listen, congratulations on the carvings. They are absolutely beautiful. And I did ask you, but I'm going to ask you again, which ones are you mainly responsible for? What are your babies on this?
Well, we both, Sean and myself, worked on them all, and the nature of the kind of work is when you're working on it for a while, you need to step away for a while, step back from and sometimes that's good when either one of us steps in and does a little bit or advises on what can happen. But I did mostly the owls and the eagle and the fox and the hare, and Sean helped me out on them all, and he did the other ones as well,
How did you get interested in this?
Myself and Sean always did a bit of craft work, and we used to do greenwood furniture, making chairs and rocking chairs and things. And we've also planted labyrinths as well out of willow and willow gazebos and things like that. And Sean more than myself, he was always out, and I was always helping him. I was more doing the sketches and maybe some of the ideas and that.
I know you're in County Fermanagh, but it just dawned on me as you were saying about furniture is that County Monaghan is very much associated with the production of really good quality furniture. Am I right?
Yeah, there was a lot of furniture factories and furniture factories and such upholstery and that in Monaghan. Yeah.
Oh, lovely.
Rossmore for the forest, I suppose, maybe locally with Rossmore Forest.
Okay, so that's where it would come from. All right, and of course the quality of the craftsmen that are there.
Yes,
Jimmy, is this what you work at on a regular basis, or is it just a hobby for you?
It's just a hobby for me, really. I'm coming from mostly working maintenance, that kind of work, and I worked in schools for a long number of years, but mostly a hobby. And it's good, especially. And it's lovely work to work with your hands. It keeps your mood right, and the guys in the men's shed do a lot of that kind of stuff. There's a lot of it's great for getting men out and working together and chatting and coming up with ideas and nice projects. You see something at the end of it.
We must do something on the men's shed as well, because it's something that I've been planning to do for a while. But let me ask you, when you have this trunk of wood, this tree trunk in front of you, and you know that this is going to be an eagle or it's going to be a fox at some stage, where do you start?
Well, where we started is we didn't decide what we were going to put on each tree. We looked at the tree first and the orientation of it. And, each tree has a bit of a gnarl or maybe a knot or something like that. And we looked at it and how it was facing along the road or into the housing estate or what have you. And then we said, that would make a nice maybe eagle looking that way, or a fox. If you look at one of the carvings, or two of them actually, the fox's tail comes out into a bush, and the bush is actually a big lump of kind of a gnarly, knotty piece in the tree. And the same with the hare's tail, which I had a big battle with trying to carve it round back into the more of a problem than not.
Yeah. Lovely. And talk to me about some of the challenges that you may have faced doing this, because I'm sure it didn't just go plain sailing all the way through.
No, and as Karen will tell you, one of the trees started out as a stork, standing up tall with its beak pointing upwards. It ended up as a pine marten, because we found a lump of rot in the middle of it. We had to cut it away down. Okay. And I had seen a mink in the village a few days before that. And I thought, rather than a mink, a pine marten might be more effective, peeking out from between some reeds. So that's a stork ended up as a pine marten. So,
and did you have to go missing from the house when you were doing this? In other words, did it take up so much of your time, or were you?
That was Karen's and Granya's fault, because we initially thought we were going to carve maybe one or two. And
once we got them roped in, you see.
But you see, I suppose I shouldn't say this in this world of PC, but I suppose when a fella is standing there and you've got women looking at you saying, please, will you please do this? It's very hard to say no, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it wasn't altogether like that. We really got into it ourselves, and it worked well, and the weather, we got into a spell of good weather. We were knocked off for a while with some wet weather, but it was nice kind of work, but it was very, very busy, and we spent a lot of time talking to people.
Yeah.
Not many people came along.
People stopping.
And
people stopping.
Karen, did you or any of the other people involved in the Tidy Towns, did you micromanage this, or did you just let the lads off on their own?
No, they knew what they were doing, and once they knew what we wanted, we just trusted them to go ahead. And like that, as Jimmy was saying, one of them didn't turn out what it was supposed to be, but they made it into something else wonderful as well. So no, we let them work away, and God love them. They were stopped, I don't know, many times. People just took such an interest, and because it's the main route and people driving by, and then they might drive by, and then the next way on the way back they'll come and stop for a chat, and it kind of went like that. So they were stopped and started many times, which is
oh, good.
Yeah.
Jimmy, when you pass these sculptures, again, you've been working with your hands, I suppose, most of your adult life, or all of your adult life, or maybe even as a child as well. So you may be used to it, but is there a sense of pride that I helped do that?
Almost definitely, yeah. And the pieces, even when I go to them, visit them myself now, or stop at them, because we check on them and see how they're doing as far as rotting that goes. You always have to touch them. They're very tactile, and you find that with people to come to look at them, they always rub their hands over them.
Really,
because it's just the texture of them, and to see how hard they are, and to see what material they're made out of, how rough they are. But you do get a sense of pride. I'm happy with how they turned out. No,
particularly the eagle, the workmanship in the eagle, and the whole back of the eagle, and then it's clasping the fish is just amazing. I don't know how they done it, and even the wind spirits and that as well. And the fox, the kids love the fox.
Yeah, well, it is lovely because it's kind of hidden inside in the tree trunk, isn't it? And you've got the pine marten.
Very real life. You really like, as well. So, but there's a great sense of pride too, and everybody in the village in recent days just been so proud to be, that the village has been on the news and that, and putting Smithborough on the map.
And what are like the comments that you're getting on it, Karen? What are the thoughts of people? Just
that the skill and workmanship from Jimmy and Sean. And we'll not forget that John McKeeb had died as well. He'd done a lot of the sand. Just that it's amazing what you can do if you've seen the stumps just before, and that you can make something so wonderful from them. And and that the idea as well, how we come up with it. And it's just something we kind of thought of. We'd seen there's lovely ones down in British Bay as well. We'd seen them with Fionn, and it's more a history thing. They made it beautiful along the roadside as well. So someone had drew attention to that over the last few days as well. So it's just lovely. It's lovely to be all positive and really nice comments. It's lovely to read and lovely to see.
Very good. And I suppose it'll help you with the Tidy Towns as well next year, won't it?
So it'd be nice to get a few extra points.
Wouldn't it just? Jimmy, before I say goodbye to both of you, Jimmy, can I ask you, are you working on anything particular at the moment? Or has this spurred you on to do anything different than what you may have been doing?
Yeah, we've got a lot of requests for things like wolves, and we had a music festival in contact with us as well, looking for us to do an exhibition and to carve some things for the music festival.
Lovely.
Wolves and bears. We've got a request for a bear. So we've no shortage of ideas and things to come up with. So,
alrighty.
Yeah, we like that kind of stuff. We like doing something different as well.
Fantastic. Listen, go on.
I was just going to say, Jared, I don't think they realise how good they are. That's, they're very humble, and that's so, they're amazing. And it's, when you see them actually, at work and everything, it's amazing then. That's what it turned out to be, because it doesn't look, it's just amazing how it ends up and looks and when it's finished.
Actually, Jimmy, I meant to ask you, when you were doing this, had you a drawing of a fox and had you a drawing of a pine marten, or were you working from just, mind to fingers?
Yeah, we worked from photographs on our mobile phones.
Really? Wow.
So, yeah.
That's incredible. All right. All right.
Sketched them onto the tree, and then we just did an outline and just worked from there.
Fabulous. Karen, any more bright ideas in the future in the offing there in Smithborough?
Oh, we're welcome. If anybody has any, let us know. But we're working on a few wee things at the moment. Sean and Jimmy, they're going to do a few other little pieces for us. Because there's two seats along the road as well, and they're lovely. One of them has a salmon on the back of it, which is amazing, and the front of it has a lovely violin and that. So there are two seats, and we're going to have a little bench in between those with something interesting on the table, I believe.
Oh, lovely. That'd be smashing. Well,
yeah.
I know that it was actually through Facebook that you and I made contact. So will you give people the opportunity to see these fabulous things by telling us where they can see them online?
Yeah, it's facebook.com/ and it's Smithborough, SMITHBOROUGH Tidy Times, and that's the URL of the Facebook page.
That's where they'll find it.
Or if you Google us, we might come up now onto the RTE piece either. So
it does. It does because yes, Jimmy.
Joe, we could be available to go into Spain or to do a few pieces.
particularly now that it's extremely bad weather in Ireland. Alrighty, listen. Congratulations to everybody associated with this particular initiative, and thank you very much indeed, Jimmy Cosgrave, for talking to us about your side of it, and indeed well done to you and to Sean, the two main people behind this, and Karen McCaffrey. Thank you very much indeed. Your background in marketing is proving to be extremely beneficial with helping Smithborough get the headlines.
Oh, thank you, Ger. Thanks a million.
Thanks, Ger.
That's where I'll wait for you to come back to me. But you're so far away, I'll just sit right here in the morning sun, and I'll wait under the willow tree. It was a bitter sea that you left that day, when you walked out my door screaming, "Get out of my face." I took your hurting words, took all your bad deeds, and I buried them deep underneath that tree, under the willow tree. That's where I'll wait for you to come back to me. But you're so far away, I'll just sit right here in the morning sun, and I'll wait under the willow tree. Bitterness, oh how it helped to heal all this heavy heart. And I want you to know, yeah, that it's okay. If you come back, I would welcome you like it was yesterday under the willow tree. That's where I'll wait for you to come back to me. But you're so far away, I'll sit right here in the morning sun, and I'll wait under the willow tree.
promise to be true. Oh yeah, 'cause I've been all around the world and honey, I've seen enough to know. Ain't nobody else I'd rather walk with than you. Under the willow tree, that's where I'll wait for you to come back to me. But you're so far away, I'll sit right here in the morning sun, and I'll wait under the willow tree. Yeah, yeah, under the willow tree.
Hasn't he got a great voice? I like that song. He's from County Monaghan. That's why I played him, because we were talking to Karen from County Monaghan and Jimmy from County Fermanagh. And thank you very much, both of you, for joining me on the programme this evening. Barry J. Hughes is that man. Folk rock music, a musician from County Monaghan. A blend of mystical acoustic, folk sonic texture and unique indie rock edge is how he is described. Inspired by Glenn Hansard, Wallace Bird. Who else is in there that he's inspired by? Eddie Vedder, Ryan Sheridan, Pink Floyd, Jack Lukeman, you can hear that too. Alanis Morissette, yeah. Wow. So a whole lot of inspiration in there. And we haven't played him before, so I went looking for artists that I hadn't played in Monaghan, from Monaghan, and that's where I found that one. All right, Fox, I'll come back to your email in just a minute, and thank you so much for that. Where are we at time-wise? We're good. We have, we've only 15 minutes left. All right. An inspection of a child protection and welfare service by the Health Information and Quality Authority, known here in Ireland as HIQA, found that children who alleged abuse, inappropriate contact and sexual assault were left on waiting lists for months. The HIQA inspection of Tusla's Child Protection and Welfare Service in April found that the Child and Family Agency failed to take steps to identify children who were not receiving care and protection. HIQA found what they call is a chronic shortfall in staffing resources to meet demand, including gaps in the monitoring and oversight of waitlist cases and completion of safety planning. Many children and families in the Dublin South, West Kildare and West Wicklow services areas were waiting prolonged periods for preliminary inquiries and initial assessments to take place. The report outlines what inspectors found when they reviewed files during the inspection. They included the case of a 4-year-old who had alleged inappropriate contact by an older child. That child remained on the waiting list 5 months later. Given the age of the child, HIQA has said that their ability to recount the incident months later may not be reliable. In another case, a teenager who alleged sexual assault 14 months prior to the inspection was still on a waiting list. Another teenager who also alleged sexual assault 8 months before HIQA examined the file remained on the waiting list with no direction to support services outlined. Children under the age of 8 were referred because they were found home alone. The case was on a waiting list for 4 months. While attempts were made to contact the family, these were not successful. And the case was brought to the attention of staff during the inspection. However, they were unable to determine if the children were still residing at the address provided. The HIQA inspectors concluded that the children, therefore, may have moved to another area, and the risk of them risks to them, remained unassessed and unaddressed. The report offers a profile of the region and has noted it as a diverse area with 4 county boundaries: County Kildare, Wicklow, South Dublin and Dublin South City. The area comprises a mix of rural communities such as Baltinglass in County Wicklow, large rural towns such as Naas, County Kildare, commuter belt towns, for example, Leixlip, and Dublin South City areas such as Crumlin and Talla. It is second largest of the 17 Tusla areas, with 27% of the population under 18 years inclusive, totaling 108,186 children and young people. The area has been a service area of concern to HIQA since 2019, when an inspection found it to be non-compliant with all 4 standards inspected against. Further inspections over the following years saw improvements, however. Despite assurances being sought by HICWA, the watchdog remained dissatisfied. The HICWA inspection focused on the management of child protection and welfare referrals, waiting for a preliminary inquiry and or an initial assessment to be carried out. As well as chronic staff shortages, many children and families were waiting prolonged periods for preliminary inquiries and initial assessments to take place. There were clearly defined governance arrangements and lines of accountability in the area, and management was attempting to mitigate the risks in the area. However, they faced many competing demands and were required to prioritise risks within their existing resources. As a result, HICWA found that the area management was unable to direct adequate resources for the care and protection of all children. It's one of those kind of ongoing sagas and the chicken and the egg, isn't it? Resources, sometimes, you can get the people, but if you don't have the resources in place, even for those employed there, because what they see and what they go through, they must need resources. And sometimes it's not there. You've got the level of pay that those people would be on as well. So that all leads to recruiting issues, and it also leads to retention issues as well along the way. And in the middle of it all, it's children that are suffering, as we can see, and it's quite clearly pointed out in black and white with that report. To something a little more trivial, and I suppose shouldn't even be in the same link really, but let's do it. And I think, there's a focus. We've talked over the last couple of weeks about the difficulties in RTE and the questions that have been asked of them. I'm not going to go through those again right now, but we might come back to that by the end of the programme. But I see that a car bought by Airports Operators DAA, that's the Dublin Airport Authority, in 2019 for its CEO is unacceptable in every respect, according to Fine Gael TD Fergus O'Dowd. The authority confirmed to RTE's Morning Ireland programme that it spent €117,000 on a 3-litre Land Rover Range Rover sports diesel SUV for its then CEO Dalton Phillips. The purchase was part of Mr. Phillips' contract of employment. The contract was approved by the Minister of Transport and the Minister for Public Expenditure and Reform. Mr. O'Dowd acknowledged that Mr. Phillips was also responsible for the operation and management of Cork Airport, but this is all the more reason for top executives and DAA should be at the forefront of climate change and how we do business, he said. It's sports diesel, it's an SUV, it's a 3-litre diesel engine, it's everything that it shouldn't be. The key point in this person is that this person works in Dublin. The average speed in Dublin of a car is about 17 kilometres. Wow. It's the second lowest speed in Europe. So this car is going nowhere, but at enormous cost to the environment and to the state, and it's entirely unacceptable in every respect. Mr. O'Dowd has questioned the Department of Transport on the level of allowances paid to executives in the semi-state sectors. The Departments of Transport and Public Expenditure and Reform, who gave the go-ahead to the purchase, need to get their houses in order, Deputy O'Dowd said. All government departments need to assess what vehicles are being purchased with their consent. Now, Deputy O'Dowd highlighted that the CEOs of Irish Rail, Bus Éireann and Dublin Bus are driving electric cars and reducing their carbon footprints. They're still going at 17 kilometres an hour, aren't they? The Airport Authority told RTE's Morning Ireland it is currently leasing an electric Mercedes for the current CEO, Kenny Jacobs. It also said that it would purchase a new executive-level electric car for the CEO for the length of his tenure. He said that €60,000 was more than enough to spend on a car for anybody, no matter what company you run. Excuse me, little frog in the throat. Big equals power equals status is the old way of doing things. The days of the 3-litre diesel, the Range Rover SUV is well and truly over. It's a complete waste of money as well, he said. I don't disagree with him. I do not indeed. I think I need some water, lads. But first, can I say thank you to Fox. Fox Williams got in touch and he said, Ger, just to let you know, Anna Mike, I think it's Mike is how you pronounce this. Do you know what the difficulty with some of the artists is that you never hear them being played on the radio, so you never hear how they're supposed to be pronounced. When I say radio, I mean, I'm excluding TRE, obviously, but the likes of Anna Mike, I presume Miek. Her name is actually Anna Mike Bishop, but she goes by Anna Mike. She's appearing apparently at Belver Castle in Palma. It should be Bevier. Should it be Bevier Castle in Palma? Maybe it should. That's happening on the 2nd of August, which is next week. It's happening at 9 o'clock. Tickets are €15. That's cheap, isn't it? And Foxes, I've heard your music. Very impressed. Might be of interest to people listening in Majorca. Indeed. And just to kind of whet your appetite, let's take a track from her. Here's a track that I played back in November of last year when she released it. A song called Seraphim. Nice one too. Thanks, Fox.
Seraphim lying in your pale skin. Whisper low, God forbid they hear our woes. Holes in the ground and without a hole in. To be seen, not heard is a worrying thing. Ice creeps in. To be seen, not heard is a worrying thing. To be seen, not heard is a worrying thing. So we stand drinking up the last of the light. Common ground watching disappear. Holes in the sky where the light slips in. To be seen, not heard is a worrying thing. Seraphim dancing in the way you did. Whisper low, God forbid they hear our woes. Holes in the ground and without a hole in. To be seen, not heard is a worrying thing. To be seen, not heard is a worrying thing. Why do you hold your head so low, so low, so low, so low, so low, so low? So. Why do you hold your head so low, 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 so Take me far away from the crowds. Take me far away from the crowds, oh, maddening crowds.
It's called Seraphim, Seraphim, from Anamieke, Mieka. I'm sure I hope is the correct pronunciation of that. And thank you to Fox for the information. Fox tells me that she's going to be appearing in Majorca, the Beaver Castle in Palma, on the 2nd of August. That's next Wednesday. She'll miss Live on Eire. And if you go along, will you ask her why she didn't let me know she was going to be there so that I could give it a mention? I had to rely on Fox. Fox, good job. You have my best interests at heart. Thank you very much for letting me know. That's it. Done and dusted for another week, folks. I hope that you've enjoyed the programme as much as I did. Enjoy presenting it to you and putting it together. Sad that I had to bring you the news of Sinead O'Connor's passing in the first hour of the programme. Sad indeed, but hopefully she will have found the peace that she longed for so long. Patricia Traynor, thank you for your story on Kilkenny. And Karen McCaffrey and Jimmy Cosgrove, thank you very much for joining me from Smithsborough, the Tidy Town's wonderful organisation there, and wonderful efforts. As always, thank you to Antonio Sierra, our Spanish-Irish cultural advisor on the programme. I wish you well. I'm back with you next Monday. In fact, I'm with you all week next week for Daybreak. Dave is taking the week off, and I hope he's going somewhere nice. So I'll be sitting in between 8 and 10 every morning. I hope you can join me. If not, Wednesday next week, live on Eire.
Ger Sweeney presents Live on Eire in association with emeraldconnection.net.
You've been listening to a TRE production. If you've enjoyed this programme, there'll be another episode waiting for you next week, right here on this platform, where you can also access our extensive back catalogue of shows and interviews. For more information on our live programming, social media channels and apps, and how to contact Talk Radio Europe, please visit tre.radio.